In this video, I'm going to talk about why we should compost, the positive and negative effects of composting, and how to compost. Why should we even compost in the first place? In a peer-reviewed journal addressing food waste, Matthew Swinburne, the Associate Director with the Network for Public Health Law's East Region, states that the U.S. alone wastes about 160 billion pounds of food every year. Of that 160 billion, 76 billion pounds of wasted food is contributed by American households. The 76 billion pounds of food wasted is due to the fact that American households tend to overpurchase their food, have trouble with portion sizing, which means they put way too much on their plate that they can actually consume, and end up throwing it out afterwards. And lastly, tossing out leftovers without thinking twice about it. If we were to save just 1/3 of the food we would usually throw away, it would be enough to feed every single hungry person in America. By reducing food waste, we would not only be serving the American people, but helping the environment. Reducing food waste is beneficial to the environment, as greenhouse gas emissions from food wasted in the United States alone is equivalent to 37 million passenger vehicles per year. These emissions come from food that is thrown out during agricultural production, transportation of food waste, and the decomposition of food waste. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, methane gas, or CH4, is released into the air when food decomposes. With this being said, landfill is the third largest source of human-related methane emissions. This is devastating towards the environment, as methane is 36 times more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. Food waste is not only an ethical issue, but an environmental one as well. By composting food waste, it prevents methane gas from being released into the air from landfills. So by composting your own food, you can lower your carbon footprint. Next, I will talk about the benefits and side effects of composting. The first benefit of composting is that it reduces greenhouse gases. This is according to the Department of Environmental Science at the University of Navarre, Spain. This is because there will be less waste to collect and transport. Less handling will be needed, such as landfill and incineration, as incineration releases harmful gases into the air. EarthEasy, an organization committed to educating people on sustainable living and environmental issues, says that compost can be used as a natural fertilizer because it includes nutrients and is good at retaining moisture. In addition, the water used on the compost can be recycled to water plants and provide nutrients as well. Now I'm going to talk about the negative side effects of composting. According to the Environmental Department at the University of Bourgogne, France, composting can produce microorganisms and mold, which can lead to air contamination. Next, if not done correctly, compost can produce a very bad smell, which can affect surrounding neighbors. It could also attract pests and unwanted animals that could get into and destroy all your hard work. Lastly, compost takes a lot of time and patience, as it takes months to decompose and turn into good compost. Along with time and patience, compost requires effort and active engagement. You need to know how to sort out food waste and trash. Compost needs to be aerated, which means it needs to be turned every once in a while. It also needs to be watered regularly in order to retain moisture. Compost is not simply throwing your food in a trash can. It requires active attention. Now for the fun part, how to build your own compost. First, I got a standard garbage bin with a lid and drilled holes 15 centimeters apart from each other. After drilling holes at the bottom, I went on and drilled holes on the sides of the bin as well. Partway through, I realized half-inch holes were a little too big, so I switched to a smaller size. Next, I laid down some dried leaves and twigs at the bottom of the bin. This is about 3 to 6 inches of dried twigs and grass. Then I add soil on top of the dry layer. These first 2 layers are considered brown material. This is about 2 to 3 inches of soil. Then I add the food scraps, which are considered the green material. It is important to have a good balance of brown, carbon-rich materials and green, nitrogen-rich materials. The ideal ratio of brown screens is 3 to 1. Too much green will result in a bad-smelling compost. Too much brown slows down the decomposition process. I put the bin in the corner of my yard. Lastly, I added water. Just enough so the water can reach the bottom of the bin, but the contents should not be soggy. Seal tightly so nothing gets into it. After a week, I'm turning my compost so that it can get aerated. I saw that my compost was a little dry, so I added water after this, because it's important that the compost stays moist. After just 1 week of collecting our food scraps, it was surprising to see just how much food we threw away as one family. I'm excited to add this new step on my path to a more sustainable lifestyle. Thanks, Pablo, for always encouraging your students to take action beyond classroom settings.